Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and completely demystify how we teachers evaluate your educational journey from start to finish. Look, if you've ever sat in a classroom and wondered why on earth you're taking a certain quiz, filling out a specific chart, or sweating over a massive end of year exam, you are exactly in the right place. Today, I am putting on my teacher hat to pull back the curtain on the whole systematic process we use to gather, analyze, and interpret information about your learning. But more importantly for you, I'm going to give you specific study techniques and time management strategies so you can tackle every single one of these assessments with absolute confidence.
So here is the complete landscape. It's like a giant map of the 8 core types of educational assessments we use. You see, assessment isn't just one monolithic thing. Different types serve entirely different purposes, and they're deployed at very specific times during your learning process. Our ultimate goal across all 8 of these? To improve both how we teach and how you learn. Today, we're going to follow the timeline of a typical academic term. We'll look at starting the journey, monitoring the process, evaluating results, comparing standards, and finally, alternative assessments.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, starting the educational journey. Because before we even begin our very first lesson of the term, we need to know exactly where you currently stand. And this brings us to diagnostic assessment. The whole purpose here is to identify your prior knowledge, your unique strengths and weaknesses, and honestly, any misconceptions you might have before we even start teaching. Think of it literally like a doctor diagnosing a patient before writing a prescription, right? We need to know what you already know so we can plan our instruction effectively. For you as a student, this is your cue to ask yourself a reflective question right at the start of a term. Okay, what do I already know about this topic, and where are my blind spots?
We conduct these right at the beginning of a unit or course. We use tools like KWL charts, questionnaires, and pretests. Actually, as a student, you can use a KWL chart to create a step-by-step review plan for yourself. Just track what you know, outline what you want to know, and then check off what you've learned as you study. But the absolutely crucial point here is that these are strictly to help us teach better. They are not used for grading you, so don't stress over these. Just be totally honest about what you know.
Similarly, another assessment that happens before the real learning begins is the placement assessment. Imagine you're entering a new language program or a math track. The purpose here is to place you in the appropriate course or level based entirely on your current ability. These happen before admission. Think of entrance exams or aptitude tests. The goal is just to help us stream students properly, ensuring a good instructional match. We want to make sure you're challenged at just the right level. You know the best test-taking tip for a placement exam? Do not pull an all-nighter trying to cram. Seriously, get a good night's sleep, show up, and just show what you naturally know so you get the best fit possible. Okay, so now you're in the right class. The unit has officially started. How do we track your day-to-day progress? That brings us to Section 2, monitoring the learning process. Enter formative assessment. The purpose here is to monitor your learning progress during instruction. This is all about providing timely feedback to improve things while the learning is actively happening. And here is a huge tip for you. When you get formative feedback, don't just look at the score and shove the paper into your backpack. Really analyze it. Find the specific step where you made a mistake so you don't repeat that exact same error on the final exam. These are incredibly common and continuous. We're talking quick quizzes, exit tickets, think, pair, share activities, and concept maps. Time for a quick pop quiz for you. If your teacher uses a think, pair, share activity in class, is that graded? Usually, no, it's formative. We use these to identify learning gaps early and adjust our teaching on the fly. This is also exactly why collaborative study groups are so effective. Bouncing ideas off your peers helps you course correct in real time before the high-stakes test. Eventually, though, we reach the end of the unit or term, which requires a completely different approach. Let's move to Section 3, evaluating the final result. Summative assessment is the formal, standardized way we determine your overall level of achievement once the teaching is completely finished. The purpose is strictly evaluative. We're looking back to see what actually stuck. Because these evaluate your ultimate achievement, time management is critical. When you sit down for a summative exam, take the first 60 seconds to just scan the entire paper and budget your time based on the point values. It's a real game changer. These are the big ones. Final exams, term and standardized tests, major projects. Unlike formative assessments, these are absolutely used for your final grading and certification. Because these go on your final report card, you need a rock-solid, step-by-step review plan. Start reviewing 2 weeks out.
Break the syllabus down into daily, bite-sized chunks rather than trying to cram the whole shebang the night before.
The difference between these two is stark. Formative is ongoing. It's that continuous feedback loop used to adjust teaching. Summative is the final, formal evaluation strictly for your grade. Basically, formative is the rehearsal and summative is opening night.
We can also look at it as a timeline. Contrast diagnostic assessment, which checks your baseline before we even start and isn't graded, with summative assessment, which measures exactly what you achieved after we finish to determine your final grade. The journey of a single unit usually starts with diagnostic, lives in formative, and ends with summative.
But how exactly are those final summative test scores interpreted? I mean, a score of an 85 means very little without context. Let's dive into Section 4, Comparing Performance and Standards. There are two main ways we interpret scores. First, norm referenced. The purpose here is to compare your performance against a larger group. Think of an IQ test or a test graded on a curve. On the flip side, criterion referenced measures your performance against specific predetermined criteria or standards. It's your absolute performance. Here's a great study scenario. If you know a test is criterion referenced, your study technique should be strictly tied to the grading rubric. If it's norm referenced, focus on broad, comprehensive mastery because you are competing against the group average. But speaking as an experienced teacher, I know for a fact that fill-in-the-bubble standardized tests just don't always capture your true capabilities. Sometimes we need to go beyond the traditional paper and pencil exam. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, Alternative and Self-Assessments.
Alternative assessment evaluates learning through authentic methods that go way beyond traditional testing. These focus just as much on the process of you learning as they do on the final product. We're talking portfolios, journals, hands-on projects, exhibitions. Your best study technique for portfolio isn't memorization, it's consistent time management. Don't leave gathering your materials to the final week. Build your project incrementally.
Finally, we have self and peer assessment. The goal here is to involve you in assessing yourself and your classmates to promote reflection. This is where collaborative study groups absolutely shine. By evaluating a peer's draft, you're actually developing your own critical thinking. You start asking yourself reflective questions like, did I clearly prove my point here, or is this confusing? It builds learner autonomy, so you aren't just relying on the teacher for all the feedback.
So, looking back at all of this, why do we use all 8 of these different approaches? Why not just give one huge test and call it a day? Well, as a student, you can actually use a quick checklist to evaluate your own assessment needs. Do I understand my baseline? Am I improving daily? Can I prove my final mastery?
Using this diverse toolkit provides a complete picture of your learning. Relying on just one method leaves huge blind spots. For you, this variety ensures your individual learning style is supported. If you're a notoriously bad test taker, alternative assessments give you a real chance to shine, keeping your motivation high and promoting continuous improvement. You've seen the roadmap now. You know a pre-test is just to help me plan. A quick exit ticket is to see if I need to reteach something tomorrow, and a final rubric-based project is your time to show ultimate mastery. Understanding how and why you are evaluated completely empowers you. So think about it. How are you going to use this knowledge to adjust your study habits, manage your time, and take active control of your educational journey the next time you walk into a classroom? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.